You've got to realize now we go into the depth of the knowledge in how simultaneously the two things can work. In so many ways, the understanding of the total disclosure last Thursday will take a long time because there was a lot of hidden information in the disclosed knowledge. First of all, we understand that we can decontaminate radiation from any water. If you live or lived across the big lakes in USSR, or you've been around that area, during the communist time, a lot of lakes have been fed from the wastage from nuclear power stations directly into the lake. They are highly contaminated, radioactively contaminated. I know this because I've been on these lakes. I've been taken there years ago to see what we can do. The level of radiation in some of these lakes is very high. So now we have a solution. How can we find a solution? There are a number of ways that this can be done, especially with the introduction of the GaNs into the system. But you have to realize the extension of the application of the GaNs. If you create or absorb the radiation, and at the same time, you create the right environment in the GaNs of the environment where you're applying the GaNs, you can lead to creation of life. If you haven't understood, I explain to you in a very simple way. There has been a big mystery of how and the way planktons have created, which become the backbone of the life in the sea, in the oceans. Planktons are created in a very simple way. We can take an example of it. If you look at the continent of Africa, if this is West Africa, every year from Central Africa's Sahara's deserts, we get a storm which is dust storm. It goes literally like the whole cross of the West Africa. It goes right the way through. If you lived in Gambia, in Ghana, in West Coast Africa, you know this. There is a season where this red dust just comes in. If you've been in Kinshasa, you see it comes in. And what does this dust do? It's very red in color. And it just goes across and it gets dumped over Atlantic Ocean. And if you look at the structure of the fish growth on the west coast of Africa, you'll find out there is a zone where most of this dust from the desert lands in the sea. Tons, millions and millions of tons of sand every year. I've been there, I've seen it when it comes. Literally, your sweat red. The dust is red in color, totally gone. The street goes red. And then what happened? This dust contains iron, and in crossing the ocean, on the surface of the lake, as now we understand, the surface of the ocean is covered with amino acid due to the condition of the structure of the sea. So what happens? Every atomic structure, every dust in contact with the amino acid, in capturing the fat more or less on the top of the ocean, in conjunction with the iron from the desert, creates the first hemoglobin, the first structure of life. That's why these part of oceans are rich in fish. Now we have solved part of the mystery about the life in the Atlantic Ocean and what we see life in this sky. We have the same scenario on northeast of China by the Japanese islands. We see huge number of planktons coming from northeast China into North Japanese Sea. It's the same process. the same condition. The snow brings with it the salt, the amino acid. On the northeast coast, there is a huge reserve of atomic structure iron. They get washed by the time they're there, but the snow melts, right temperature, they become beginning of amino acid and life of planktons. So partially we have a solution, and if you look at this and convert this back into understanding of the amino acid, radiation, and the ions which come in, depending on what level of radiation you can capture within the GANs from what you have extracted from the waters of the rivers or the lakes, you can start creating a condition of natural life. In a way, you convert the radiation into useful application for feeding into the oceans or into the agricultural section. This is a natural process. If you add the right amount of the minerals and the right amount of what are called GANs of a given structure, you can control what kind of protein, amino acid, hemoglobin you create that will lead to be absorbent or be useful for certain purposes. So now for the first time, by deciding on the GANs, we decide on the structure, we decide if we create the right salt condition on the hardness and the softness of the plankton too. Because it's the structure of the fields which leads to the creation of the amino acid and hemoglobin. The structure change is very much, if it's the blood of a cow, the blood of the man, the blood of monkey, we cannot get the blood of cow and inject it to man. Because the way and the condition, the GANs and hemoglobin is created. Now we have a control. We can literally replicate any creature's blood according to what we use as a GANs and the condition of the creation of the fields. It will take decades for man even to understand what I explained in past 10 minutes, because our science has to develop in line with us dictating the position, the condition, the warmth, and everything else which come into our acceptance of life to start. Because now what happens, the speed of conversion is much higher. Here, the matter state has to become in conjunction, in contact with the salt of the sea, with the matter elements of the sea, with the GANs which is on the surface of the sea constantly getting pulled in to create a specific condition. This, in so many ways, if you go further, you will understand why we have a white, why we have a red, why we have a different texture of fish in the sea. Because how and where these planktons, in what condition acidity, the salinity and the amino acids created dictates what kind of fishes are created in different part of the ocean. Now we can replicate it. Now the access comes, do you need to have a tuna to kill, or you create a plankton which gives the life of a tuna, the structure of the tuna, without ever actually creating a tuna. It's now we understand more in depth, is part of the research which needs to be added in how these things will add up. The new release is very interesting. A lot of people complaining, a lot of report comes because of the Fukushima, new type of animals are seen, a new version of different fishes are seen. Has the nature, due to interaction of the fields from Fukushima, in nano and in a GANs state of the waters of the what we call Pacific Ocean, has created a new condition environmental for new creatures, new condition, new animals, new condition to live, conversion and mutation to be part of the essential existence for them. So are we creating or have we created new versions of the same animals due to interaction of the gases and the radiation, and in them themselves creating new strength which creates a new condition? So the evolution in 3 to 5 years, we can do the same. It is very, very fundamental to understand what is on the table, what we are discussing. We are discussing, in principle, not genetic modification. We're talking about the before gene, before even becoming to genetic. Now we control the new creation, as you said.
New life is being created all the time in the forest of Borneo, and keep finding new life forms. I think it's just new life being created. I don't think
it's a new condition.
Yeah.
It's a new condition with a new environment, creates a position that we see new what we call creatures. Because now we understand how it's done, we can do the same. We can dictate the position of condition of the evolution. And this is what I said, when we go to space, now that we are getting into space, to go into space without food, we are creating the same condition ourselves. With receiving different kind of energies, more not in a matter level, we are evolving ourselves into a new creature, where we don't need to consume. We only absorb what we need. We see people now, a number of people which are testing these things themselves, how they are evolving, how they are going back and forth between non-eating and eating, because they still need confirmation of existence. Consuming food to us is confirmation of existence. When we stop consuming food and we can consume energy with other food, then we evolve. And we will see this evolution will be very fast. It will be in a matter of 12 to 18 months. We will see people will totally lose everything in respect to the matter absorption. Can you imagine no more pizza?